Good afternoon. My name is Sherry Bailey. Today I am going to be kind of reflecting on this whole class that I just took and my shadow health experience. Um, when looking back at the shadow health experience in general, it was very positive. Shadow health lets you practice clinical assessment and interview skills in a safe environment. When you first enter the shadow health classroom, I was kind of expecting that it would take way too long. And it does take a long time, but um, it's time worth your time, I should say. Um, Although some of the aspects of the shadow health world are kind of unrealistic, the majority of it is very much similar to what you would find in a real clinical setting. Um, Tina Jones is the first patient that you go through, and she has a lot of rich history. Um, and there are many teaching opportunities that you can utilize and teach her about ways to manage her diabetes better, because you learn whenever you're interviewing her that she doesn't really manage it good at all. Um, and you can teach her those ways to do it better. That way she can better improve her health in the future. There are also concept labs in the shadow health world, which is where you go through and you just practice the different skills. My favorite personal concept lab was the respiratory one. I thought it was really awesome that I thought the differences in the adventitious breath sounds were very clear and good compared to what I've heard in real patients. I never really understood the difference between fine and coarse crackles, and in this concept lab, it was very clear which was which, and I thought it was really helpful, and it'll definitely help me in my future clinical experience. I also thought that those concept labs, really the whole shadow health experience would be really good for new nurses that haven't entered that clinical world yet, because they don't really have anything to go off of, but this was very realistic. The shadow health clinical world would definitely help those new nurses to learn to communicate with patients in a professional way about kind of some uncomfortable topics. It kind of lets you get that experience as to how to question people, like different techniques to question them to where, you both still feel comfortable. You also get to interview a wide array of people, which kind of helps to get a well-rounded clinical experience. You get to interview some pediatric patients, some much older patients, as well as kind of some middle-aged patients. So shadow health is fairly good with understanding the diversity in people. That, like I said, kind of helps you get that well-rounded experience. There were very few things that I would change about the shadow health experience. There were a couple, though. For one thing, you only get to do one complete physical assessment, like head to toe. You're looking for problems, and that was on Tina Jones. I do think that it would be a lot better if there were more of those complete physical assessments, to where you could do a comprehensive one on the PD patient, the geriatric patient, and the regular middle-aged patient too. There was the second one thing that I don't know how I would change it, but I do think it was very unrealistic, was the abdominal palpation assessment. I think it's really difficult to palpate someone's abdomen on a computer and it actually means something to you. Sure, they do go through and explain like where the liver and this and that should be, but I think that until you actually put your hands on someone's abdomen and feel it for yourself, that really isn't going to, really doesn't do you justice. In general, I do believe that this class is a class that you truly get to learn a lot in, and I think that it definitely benefits me as a nurse and would definitely benefit other nurses, especially those, like I said, that aren't in that clinical world yet and they haven't gotten to necessarily put their hands on a patient. It kind of goes through the basics and teaches you what you should do in the order that you should do it, and also teaches you how to listen realistically to people. Because you always learn what good breath sound like, usually, whenever you're learning about your physical assessment. But it's hard to learn what bad breath sounds sound like unless you're in the clinical world. So, in general, I do think this is a very good class, and I was happy that I got to do it.